it's not necessarily feeling closer to the soldier, but feeling closer to the person that is a soldier, kind of thing. It's humanized the poems, and it's made me see the kind of the people behind them, as opposed to them being put into boxes of, you go out to war and I suppose in your head you see, like, you hear the word soldier and you just think of the same thing, but everybody has a kind of life underneath that, don't they?
It's been really interesting. When we say soldier, most of the poems aren't actually written by people that are fighting, are by soldiers in particular.
But also the poems are about just people that are affected by war, not fighting in them.
I start to cast a different eye over it because I'm going to present it, I feel. I've looked, poetry, we were made to study it at school and different parts of poetry and that sort of stuff. And you remember studying it back then, and I think I cast a different eye over it for some reason. I remember one of those opening days when we were picking the poems that we were going to perform, and I remember thinking, that's a very Miriam-y poem, I see why she's picked that, and that's a very Jill poem, I see why she's picked that. And we all seem to pick poems that we connected to in a certain way, and I think they've really come out in the performance that way.
It is an utter privilege. I really feel that, every now and again it sort of hits me. I think this poem is just brilliant. So beautifully constructed, or just sort of articulates something in a lucid and beautiful way, and vivid, or whatever. It is just a thrill, actually.
The poems, it seems to me, some, not all of them, but a lot of them, are someone that's prepared to try and write down those difficult things, to take the time to do that.
It's definitely highlighted the fact that it's universal for me, that every single one of these poems are taken from a different war, a different part of the world, different circumstances, different people, but it all kind of comes back to the same thing. And that, I think, I found very interesting, is that really you could hear one of these poems and think it might be from one place, and it can be from a completely different time and country, and language. I think that's hit home.
I think for me the main thing is that whole notion of peace is kind of a misnomer, really, because there's wars all the time. I think when you're growing up, you think of like the big wars that have happened, First World War, Second World War, and all of that. And then actually there is war all of the time, everywhere. That is kind of like that industry is that, if it's an industry, I don't know, just is there. That's what comes from this. And it's stuff but actually reading all these different voices and all these different experiences from right across the world, it kind of like...
And that it starts with us. It comes from us as individuals, normal people falling out about something. We're sharing the poems with the audience, and it's kind of like we're all sat around in the same room, kind of sharing experiences in a way, and the audience are just as much a part of that as we are.
I think what makes it for me is the sort of sketch show idea of it. And so when if you don't like a poem, or you don't connect to a poem in the same way as you have the others, then it comes to an end within the space of 2 minutes or so. None of them are excessively long poems. If you don't connect, or you don't get the language, or there's something not quite resonating with you, then there's always the next one that you can reconnect back, like zoning in again, tuning back into it.
I think people think they know what they're going to get from this piece, which is poetry read by actors with a certain cadence and a certain rhythm and a certain voice about it. And I think what we try to do is to bring, keep it human, really, and to try and bring that honesty to it. I mean, I don't know if it's truth, but there's a kind of honesty from each of the performers on this, really. I think that's what we try to do.